Reindeer sliders are probably one of the most popular animals for people to buy, but not to keep. And by that I literally mean people are always buying these and then they're always disappearing somehow. Where do they go? Who knows? Well, we pretty much know where they go. A lot of people end up releasing them, they end up trying to rehome them, they end up dying because of improper care, and all sorts of lovely things. Today I want to talk about reindeer sliders and whether they make good pets or not, because they are seen everywhere. And they're kind of the animal that I think most people that aren't really into the reptile keeping hobby still get as a reptile. So basically reptiles might not be your thing, but maybe you still want a nice little pet around the house. So these seem to be the one that you go for. Go into pet stores, you find them as little tiny things, which is illegal in a lot of places now, but they're still sold everywhere, especially in street vendors and other not so illegal places. And they're like barely any money. They might be like $5, $10, or even free depending on where you are, because they are actually illegal to profit in some places off of these animals. And for some reason they keep getting bred. I don't know why. I guess, well, street vendors, of course, they're gonna be making some cash for random people walking by. But you find them as these little tiny turtles, like a couple inches long or large, and they look pretty simple to care for. The person, whether it's at a pet store or a vendor or whatever, they might just be like, yep, just put it in a 10-gallon, give it some pellets, you're good to go. Well, just like any other pet, there's a lot more to think about than just some very, very basic care. Now, they're definitely a cool animal to have. They show a lot of personality. Sometimes they get a little grumpy if they don't want to be in a video. Other times they'll be super chill. Some might be more defensive based on how they've been raised or just their personality. So overall, each turtle varies a lot, but they can definitely be super cool and super interesting if you are ready for it. Now, some things that people underestimate, firstly, is definitely the size that they grow. They definitely get bigger than Franklin here. He's probably going to continue growing. He's about 11 years old. Now, we'll get to ages in just a minute, but thinking about the size of the enclosure they have, the general rule for turtles is about 10 gallons per 1 inch of shell. That's a lot of space. Because they are pretty immobile, they can't just be stuck in some little 20-gallon aquarium in the living room. Can you calm down a little, please? Stay calm. Ow. So the size of the enclosure is not only something that can really put a damper on the actual health of the animal if it's too small, it also causes a lot of people, when they realize they need something bigger, to want to get rid of it. The other thing that makes people really want to get rid of it is just how long they live. So I go to festivals around North Carolina a couple times a year. I bring animals with me to kind of get people that aren't usually with reptiles, kind of hands-on with them and just checking them out to learn a little bit. And I bring Franklin, I put a little tag on his thing, just a little info about him. It says invasive to North Carolina, not to every state. And people will come up and be like, oh yeah, I had one of those as a kid. And then they read the little label and it says how so many irresponsible keepers ended up releasing them, which basically ruined the ecosystem and is continuing to do so very rapidly. And then they kind of just maybe walk off or look kind of awkward, because these people usually age like 25 to 50 years old, which is not as long as the lifespan of these turtles. A quick Google search told me that they live about 50 to 70 plus years. I usually hear around 60 years, and it definitely varies per turtle. But basically, they obviously got rid of that turtle somehow. Chances are they did exactly what that label said. So make sure, if you're considering one of these animals, not to underestimate their lifespan. Reptiles in general are going to live a really long time, and turtles and tortoises even longer than most. Like I said, Franklin's 11 years old, and that means he's basically still a youngin', even though 11 sounds pretty old for a dog or cat. The next thing you need to make sure you think about, and lots of people don't, is the actual cost. They're not quite as simple as They're not quite as simple as just filling some little tub with water and giving them some pellets. They need the proper lighting. If they don't, they're gonna develop things like metabolic bone disease, shell rot, and all sorts of other not so fun issues. This lighting needs to be replaced, which is gonna be a little, not too much money, but over time it might add up over the years. In addition to this, you need to actually think of other little details, like how are you conditioning the water? What exactly are you feeding them? Are you giving them variety in their diet? Are you ready for anything that may break, like issues with your heating devices, whether you need to heat the water up or the lamps or whatever the lamps are in, all different little things like this. If you're not new to the channel, you're probably aware that how important research is, but I'm hoping this video reaches out to people that aren't necessarily always in the reptile community. So it is super important because they're probably the animal that gets misrepresented the most often with care. Oh, no, maybe I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of animals that get very misrepresented with the information that goes out about them. So with red ear sliders, you really just have to be ready to be stuck with this animal. That sounds kind of bad. I'm hoping that if you really do want a red ear slider, this video did not deter you from wanting one, because like I said, they definitely make good pets when you're ready for them. If this maybe turned you off from the species, it might not necessarily be best for you, but make sure you continue to research and actually find all the detailed information you need to know about the species so you know what you're dealing with. So remember that just like any animal, this is a living thing. You're gonna be stuck with it. It's gonna be your problem if for some reason you end up not wanting it. Now I've gotten a handful of animals now. I've never regretted buying any of them, so chances are, if you are passionate about getting that animal, go for it. The little adorable 2 to 5 inch turtle that you see for 99 cents on the side of the road isn't always going to be as fun as you realize when you're like 25 years into caring for it and you're still stuck with it. And because so many people are stuck with these turtles now, primarily adults that got them as kids or just people that have had them for a few years and they're trying to rehome them, just go look on Craigslist and on other pet classified sites. There are red ear sliders everywhere. So if you do still want one, make sure you go to those sites. It would be much preferred, in my opinion, if you do that, and that you definitely do not support these vendors or pet stores that are either illegal or just don't care about the animals, because there's a ton that need some new homes. Remember, they might end up having problems because a lot of people don't realize the different lighting and heating and diets that they need. It's really not that complicated, but somehow people still mess it up just because of no prior research. So I hope that this can encourage you to really prepare and think hard about the animals you're going to get. But that'll be it. If you do have questions about them, I might do a little bit of care on them in the future. But let me know if you have any questions or comments on the species or anything else in the comments. But I think that'll be it for this video. So I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.